Hello, 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 hello. Can you hear me? Alrighty, we got Jupiter on the screen as the backstory there. But you see, it's kind of a big story everywhere in this chart, and I'm going to show you in what ways. This is part of the part 2 for July 8th, the week of July 8th video. I wanted to create a separate chart just for this day, and a separate video just for this day, so that we can take a better look at what's going on. And I think it's a great astrology lesson. It's a piece of history, and I think it definitely deserves its own chart. So Jupiter, that is the highlight right there. Planet Jupiter. We talked about it in the week of video that goes through the 7 days following July 8th. I talked about Jupiter in Gemini being conjunct Aldebaran. So in this chart, on what day is this? July 11th. Guess I should have stated that right from the get-go, but I think you understood where I was going. Yeah, there's a sentencing on this day, and from the news sources that I looked at, what I could gather was 10 a.m. And technically, yeah, it's in New York, and this chart is kind of drawn up for where I'm at. But when I looked at the chart and the different location, yeah, it didn't make any difference. It was still coming up with this really strange chart. Why is this chart strange? What's strange about this chart? The time is 10 a.m., but if you look at the house cusp lines, you guys. They're all at 24 degrees. Every house cusp line, 24 degrees, 24 minutes. Yeah, but that's not the only thing. There's a whole lot of things in this chart. So we're going to kind of go over some of the people at the table, some of the players at the table. We have Persephone. Persephone is present. Vertex is present. Persephone and Vertex. All right, they're going to be a thing. We also have Haumea. I don't have the words Haumea written out, but I do have an arrow for Haumea. That's important. Haumea has been here. Haumea has been changing and transforming our shared resources. Whatever those can be, shared resources. So we're bonded to somebody else by money, by blood, whatever it is. We are bonded to somebody in some way. There's a lot of history normally with this, a lot of deep psychology. There can be, most people don't say karmic, but the past truly can be a thing when it comes to Scorpio energy, because if you think of your ancestry and you think of your inheritances, because this can be insurance money, but like I'm literally getting an inheritance. This, you can inherit something from an ancestor that's like way the hell old, someone you don't even know anymore, right? Someone you didn't even know you were related to. So we think of the past in terms of our values. What is mine? What is ours? Natural resources is a big deal when it comes to this too with Scorpio, because it's on the same line with Taurus energy. But just kind of keep your mind and your brain open to understanding. 0 degrees Haumea, she's in a retrograde. She's been here to change and transform and to restore, but it's a deep change, right? And it's in the sign of Scorpio. So normally when there's a deep change in Scorpio already does go deep. Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio. So is Mars. So there's an action that happens. Something occurs. And it shows us something that was hidden. Something that we didn't know. Something we weren't really aware of for whatever reason. Remember, deep psychology is Scorpio. Stuff that's been buried deep. So many times when people have Scorpio stuff, there can be soul energy. Stuff that the soul memory, soul history that comes through. A deep change and transformation. And after all that deep change and transformation comes the healing. But all those other words I said prior to healing, they're usually pretty damn messy. usually painful, usually stuff we don't want to have to experience, but it takes all of that to get to here, to get to the new and the fresh, and to get those wings and to fly away. I always think of the phoenix rising associated with that Scorpio energy. Who are some of the other people that are involved? Some are the other players at the table. The South Node is part of this because of the degrees that it's at. South Node. I have some lines with the moon and Juno partnerships because remember, guys, the time of day is a big deal. It's a big deal when you're talking about objects in the chart that move fast. The moon is conjunct Juno at 10 a.m. Partnerships, practical partnerships. We think of domestic partnerships, but also people that like that were always around us, right? People where they were vital in part of like our daily routines, right? Not real flashy. So we think of, we think of people that I always call them the silent workers. They're to be seen but not heard. They're servants type of energy. But it's the details. Let's not forget. It is the details. It's Virgo. It's meticulous. It's meticulous. And we're talking about partnerships. Okay. Vertex. I kind of glossed over that because I didn't want to go too deep, but Vertex and Persephone. Vertex is a very, very faded energy. It's like when it comes to the vertex stuff, there's not a whole lot you can do. Like it's going to happen, whatever that may be. It's at 0 degrees and it's in Saggy. And it's wild because this vertex point moves pretty darn quick. It moves faster than the moon. It's at 0 degrees in Saggy. So it's usually something extreme at 0 degrees. All right. Vertex represents a door opening and a door closing because there's 2 points to it. All right. A beginning and an ending, some say, but doesn't have to be like a beginning and an ending in that. It just means where one door closes, another one opens. This can be people. This can be events. You follow? What is 0 degree? We think of extreme, right? Jupiter comes up because Jupiter rules Saggy. Jupiter rules Saggy. So Jupiter is a thing when it comes to Persephone and when it comes to Vertex. Again, Persephone is somebody who has to, who will be alone. They might be standing alone within their beliefs, within the way that they whatever their judgment is, their subconscious judgment, maybe a public judgment. I mean, we are talking about the day where a judgment is made. But beliefs in general, we think of spirituality and religion. We also think of like the Supreme Court. We think of the Supreme Court because they're the justices within the U.S. But Persephone is somebody who kind of stands alone, someone who has to kind of make herself feel comfortable, has to learn how to be comfortable being in her own skin and being away from home and maybe kind of being singled out and being the one who's kind of holding the line. It's kind of what I'm being shown. Like I'm shown like a line being drawn in the sand. Okay. So maybe that's the wrong word, hold the line. I don't know what else words to use with that, but that's what I'm being shown. A line being drawn in the sand. So now let's back this up so we can get a little of a perspective on the big picture and some of the other lines that I have here. We have Venus highlighted here. Venus is at 9 degrees, 29 degrees. So here she is. This is the 11th, 29 degrees. All right. Critical degree. It's about values because it's Venus. This can be money. This can be banking. This could have to do with the housing market, but we know what we're talking about here. So the public, women, and the public is a big deal. Venus is women and so is Cancer. 29 degrees, feelings, emotions, emotional security. Remember, the public's sentiment, what the public is feeling. Venus at an extreme degree. We have Jupiter lit up over here because it's conjunct Aldebaran. When you look up Aldebaran, you can look it up on your end and tell me what kind of keywords you came up with, because whenever I read about it, there's always a little bit of extra here and there, a few extra different words that I can get different meaning depending upon where I'm reading it from. But bottom line, Aldebaran is quite powerful. And it promises, I'm just going to say it, and I'm just going to keep it short and quaint. A star of great power can bestow great gifts. It is most notably quite charismatic. It has ability to communicate, and a success usually results. There is a caution, because if your ambition outweighs ethics, then there can be a fall from the success. And that's the definition for Aldebaran. So it's interesting because this is kind of being analyzed on this day. This is kind of what's on the table. Ethics. Did you follow the rules? Were you ethical in your practices? It's in the sign of Gemini. This is data, this is statistics. This is business, Gemini energy, but it's just business. We think of a ledger, right? It's just business. Well, here's the court. Here's the I should say, here's the judge, conjunct Aldebaran. Let's back this up a little bit more. What else do we have here? We got the anti-vertex point. Let me move that on over. We've got the anti-vertex and we've got Mercury. Anti-vertex and Mercury. Where's the anti-vertex? At 0 degrees in Gemini. And that's why we have Mercury on the screen, because Mercury rules Gemini energy. Anti-vertex is right here. This software doesn't draw the anti-vertex in, but anti-vertex is always exactly opposite of vertex. What's kind of wild is we have Sedna here at 0 degrees, 056. Sedna's been sitting here, not a real fast mover. We also have quite a few midpoints that we're going to talk about in this chart because they're relevant. Here is, oh yeah, Mercury's the news, by the way. Not that you didn't know that, but just this quick keyword, Mercury, the news, what we're talking and thinking about, what we're sharing, videos that you're watching, news. Here's the Mars and the Uranus conjunction that I spoke about in the July 8th video. Mars conjunct Uranus. Mars is at 23, Uranus at 26, conjunct Aldebaran. That is that big band of energy that's expanded, right? 1 candle power, 2 candle power, right? All of a sudden, it's brighter. 1 horsepower, 2 horsepower. Which one's stronger? You follow what I'm saying. So it's Mars conjunct Uranus. That's conjunct Algo. And what does Algo mean? We know Uranus is shocks and surprises. We know Mars can take action. It's about values. And Algo's definition, being in Taurus, Algo is about desires. And it is in the old beliefs that when the star went dark, it was dangerous and difficult. In modern times, it's connected to bringing the subconscious to light. It unleashes great passions. So there's something here that makes values and the quality of our values really super pronounced, and then taking action. And honestly, if I were to look at this, regardless of whose name is at the top of the chart, whoever's sentencing day this is, just looking at Mercury being involved and the vertex point and fate, and this being very much in the spotlight, this is a historical thing. There is a precedent that has to be set. And I'm only saying that because of Elgo and Aldebaran, these two fixed stars. It's not, you tell me, is it a coincidence that they are part of this fateful day? Like planets that move relatively fast are connecting with them. Jupiter doesn't move fast though, but Aldebaran is here, and it's been part of this story. It's been part of it because Mercury and Venus and the sun, remember the trial? We had a lot of strong energy in Gemini and Sedna, of course, the past and women and wrongs that were done. That's Sedna. The other thing too on that Sedna point, look carefully. We have a midpoint, and it is Jupiter and Uranus sitting at 3 degrees. And that's what this is right here, Jupiter and Uranus midpoint. So vertex and Sedna at 0, Jupiter and Uranus, 2 authority figures. I have the power, I have the authority, and it would likely be a surprise. And here's the news. Here's, should I say ruling? Here are the words. Write this down. Like, this is the deal. There's a midpoint here. There's also white moon Lilith here at the same degree. Really freaking interesting. Really freaking interesting. But shocks and surprise has to do with the values, and Elgo definitely there. Here's the other thing in Taurus energy, Jupiter and Pluto energy. I'm sorry, this is Neptune, Jupiter and Neptune. Some say if someone's going to prison, you pay attention to Neptune, right? 12th house, Neptune, Pisces, that would be prison. Jupiter and Neptune midpoint, they're sitting at 5 degrees in Taurus. 5 degrees in Taurus. And here is the health report card of our values at 1 degrees in Taurus. And right next to that sits Jupiter and Saturn. These are more authority figures, Jupiter and Saturn. These are rules and restrictions. This is the judge, Jupiter, right? Neptune can be like, whew, I make you disappear. You all of a sudden feel isolated, right? It may make things confusing. It can be hospitalization. We think of Neptune energy, just think of Pisces and punch in some keywords down below. But you can take even a look at the 5 degrees energy. And I think to myself, oh my God, like that would be like the Leo degree. Fascinating. And then you go to the Jupiter Saturn midpoint, extreme degree in Aries, 2953 freedoms. Jupiter and Saturn. There's that mixture again. Do we go big with the rules and the restrictions? Just to give you a quick example, it doesn't mean this exactly, but to give you a small example of the combination of Jupiter and Saturn, when we had lockdowns for the pandemic, it was Jupiter conjunct Saturn, the great conjunction, Jupiter conjunct Saturn in Capricorn. Very different. This is in Aries. This is of an individual. Very different. Okay. Individual freedom, one physical body. You follow? Now let's back this up. Take a good look at this for a second. Just take a good look. Now that you have a little bit of an understanding of who's sitting at the table and the kind of conversations that are being had, and you see what some of these things mean, the moon, right? And remember, this is domestic energy. The moon and Juno are domestic energy. Okay. I just think that's important to point out because sentencing could include domestic energy. And there is 3 degrees here in Virgo at 3 degrees. And I do have a line drawn to it, that 3 degrees. It's an Arabic lot. It's not a fixed star, but it is sitting here at 3. And I mention it because that 3 degrees is trine energy to the Taurus stuff, to the Hygeia, and it's trining the 5 degrees of the Jupiter and Neptune midpoint in Taurus. It's a trine energy. Okay. Now, the last thing, maybe not the very last, but Jupiter and Pluto. Where's their midpoint? You see where it's at? You see the degree that it's sitting at? Yeah, I can't make this shit up. 5 degrees. 5 degrees. And what's 5 degrees? Well, if we're trying to simplify this, which is what I'm trying to do, because as you saw, all the lines, the mystic rectangles, the trines, they're all over the place. You look at this and I could give you 17 different definitions. I mean, you probably could, which is why I think the midpoints will add clarity. But this freaking midpoint's at 5 degrees. Again, more Leo energy, somebody in charge. So whenever you have like this this authority figure energy, because you think the sun, right? The sun rules Leo. So it's really strong authority figure energy, which means you have somebody who likely is not going to be afraid to show their authority. But it's Pluto. And what would that lead to? It's got to be something that's powerful and deep. And it's the Jupiter energy of a ruling of a judge and this deep change and transformation. Like it kind of shows the depth and the seriousness. Think of Pluto power, but it's supposed to be about purposeful power. Not all the nilly-willy, look at me, I got a gun, or nilly-willy, I can press a button and blow up some. No, it's about purposeful, meaningful, deeply meaningful power. This is somebody who isn't going to, you know, drop names or wield their power just for the sake of wielding power. They take it very, very heavy and deep and seriously. They've got a lot that they know that this involves. So this adds a lot of depth to what this requires and the kind of decision making. So this is again the 5 degrees, and it's a 5 degrees in Aries energy. It's in Aries. Again, the freedoms of the body, the appearance. It's Jupiter, midpoint, Pluto. Now, let's back this up. This is just a chart for this day at this moment in time. You see the mystic rectangle. You see multiple mystic rectangles. You see the Merkaba energy in here, right? We've seen this before. We see a giant great cross in the chart with Haumea. And opposite of Haumea is the health report card. So you see a giant great cross with those two. And then you see Pluto up there at that 1 degrees. 1 degrees and 8 minutes, by the way. That's very key because Sedna and Pluto at this time, look at Sedna. Pluto's just about at 0. We have Sedna and Pluto trining. They will get closer. This isn't just the day of, but they're close enough for me to call this a trine. Something powerful, something deep, the past, totally a big part of this. Totally a big part of this. The nodes sitting at South Node 10 degrees in Libra, equality, justice, Libran energy. Some say Libra is the diplomat. It's, do you want to compromise? How can we compromise? And it's a release of some sort. It's the past. It's also the past. So it's a let go energy. It's a let go energy. This is equality and fairness. And we're kind of hearing about a lot of this in the States, certain rights, especially for women. Venus, which is why we'll go and we'll look at Venus again. Oh, we already know she's at 29, right? Hold on a second. Let me go let this kitty cat in the room. So there's that Venus at 29. 29 degrees. The sun at 19 degrees. That's the authority figure. We've talked about it before. 5 degrees, sun rules that degree. Authority figure. Here it's at 19 degrees. What's interesting is the scales of justice is kind of prevalent. We think of that 19 degrees, think of this sign. Yeah. Get to the halfway point, we meet in the middle. And there's the middle right there. That's what that's for, right? And so that's why they call it a scale. Anyway, so I got Taffy licking every hand she can possibly touch, trying to say hello. So let's back this up one more time here. I don't want to go too much longer. I'm going to look at the vertex points one last time. Again, they're at 0 degrees. This is an extreme degree. It's almost like, what could it be? It's 0 degrees in Saggy and 0 degrees in Gemini. So either way, it's a surprise. Either way, it's a shock. Either way, we know judges and the judicial system is a factor here. The thing about this chart is looking at these midpoints and using Jupiter, because Jupiter is what would represent a judge in general in astrology. I see how the midpoints are connected and are at the table. So this 5 degree midpoint here with the Pluto and Jupiter, right? This one here at 5 degrees. It's close to the North Node, but the North Node has with it 2 other things. It has the part of treasure, Arabic lot, and then Celestia at 11. So it's got that 3 rings to it, right? So you think 1 candle power, 2 candle power, 3 candle power, right? 1 horse, 2 horse, 3 horsepower. So we see how that power, it gets expanded there. And we look over here because it creates sextile energy with Aldebaran and Jupiter. But we also have some stuff at 3 degrees and 7 degrees here. You see? So there's this, all of this is kind of part of the sextile to the first 0 to 7, 0 to 10 degrees of Gemini, because there's a decent amount of objects at those ends. The vertex point being at 0, along with Sedna. You see Regulus over here at 0? Yeah, Regulus is at 0. It's in Virgo. And you see how it's in red? It's retrograding at this time. Let me back some of these things up. I got so much on this chart. Remember, that's that domestic energy. That's domestic. And it's strong, that means. It means the domestic energy is prevalent. It's a big deal. As Jupiter being the ancient ruler of Pisces, I look at this chart and I say to myself, there is a lot of support for justice to be done and for this ruling to be done. Now, trying to put aside any beliefs, anything that people might think, hey, you're being unfair. And I'm really trying not to be. I try to be objective when I'm looking at charts, because I think that's super, super important. This is at 10. The South Node is at 10. South Node's at 10. Okay. Persephone at 7. Remember, they're part of that mystic rectangle, of that one mystic rectangle. The other mystic rectangle, let me draw the line for you, is from vertex to Pluto. And that's kind of the bigger story of this chart. We have a mystic rectangle that involves vertex, Pluto, the anti-vertex, and Sedna, and Venus. Because Venus is within a degree of 0 degrees. You see this? So this other really powerful mystic rectangle with Sedna and the vertex point and Pluto and the anti-vertex and Venus. It comes down to values. It comes down also to setting a precedent. And the precedent is based, I hate to say the rule of law, but that's what it is. It's based on the rule of law. All this stuff at 10, 10, and 11. Lots of mystic rectangles. So what this says in general, something that's never been done before is going to be done. And whether you have an individual that's put on house arrest or put into prison, like actually put into a jail cell, which, by the way, for all of you, not that you don't know this, but I had to kind of like dig a little bit and look into this because, well, I have never gone to jail. When you have a white collar crime, which is what this would be considered, a white collar crime, like there's a special place for these people. It's called there really is a thing. It's like a country club, and that really does exist. So no one's going to Rikers. No one's going to share a cell with Bubba. That ain't happening. Just like, let's just be clear. And if there is anything like that, it would be for a very short time until this person was transported into their wherever they would stay for however long that may be, if that's what's going to happen. Just by looking at this energy, this is big. It's very big. It's not a small thing. It's a big thing. And it's not about just this one day. That's what this chart shows. This is something that is deeply powerful and deeply meaningful. It is not just about the moment. This is about setting a precedent and into the future. I mean, you've got Pluto involved, you've got Saturn involved. Saturn rules time. Pluto is, you need to know who has the real power. Saturn is a boss energy, but I can give the restrictions. Neptune, I can make you disappear, right? Like, so this is all big. Again, Jupiter and Uranus, a big deal. Shocks and surprise. Maybe you need a little bit of a shock. Maybe you need a surprise. So we'll see what happens, because without looking at his chart, which, if there are people who actually want me to go ahead and do that, it depends on how many people actually want to watch that. So you let me know below in the comments if that's something you want me to do, and I'll take some time to draw up his chart and look at the transits. What I will tell you that I do know is his natal Pluto. I could be wrong because I'm not looking at his chart, but from my memory, I thought his natal Pluto is in Leo at 8 degrees, if I remember correctly. And if that's true, they're sitting between Vesta at 9 and this different shaped object that we haven't talked about a whole lot. This object is, I want to say Varuna, but let me double check. It is Varuna. Okay, so this energy can be a lot like Neptune. This is what's kind of fascinating about this. Varuna, a Hindu god of the ocean, reverence for a higher power. What one wants to forever be remembered for. This is one's legacy. It does say, the next sentence said, there is an urge for law and order. Urge for law and order that is more perfect than humanity's. I haven't seen anybody beat Pluto. Like, if you got Neptune and Pluto sitting at a table and they're playing cards, Pluto wins every time. Pluto is all-knowing. Now, we all have Pluto in our chart, let's be clear. I don't want anybody to take away what I'm saying, that because such and such has Pluto at 8 degrees, it means they're all-knowing. We all have Pluto in our chart. My mom has Pluto in Leo in her chart at 0 degrees. Right. Really freaking powerful energy at 0 degrees, right? You think you're the boss. Holy shit. Yeah, you haven't met a boss till you met my mother. Here's what I will say real quick, and I'm going to end it here after this, is the North Node is your future. North Node's in Aries, so it's about the freedoms. It's about your physical body and its location and its appearance. Where are you going, Taff? If it trines Pluto, it means a change is easily going to occur. But that change that's going to occur is going to be unbelievably powerfully deep. Your life absolutely is going to be changing. And it's going to be upended from the very bottom, from the very root level. And that's the North Node. And it's not just the current moment. It's this day forward, because it's about your future and the freedoms, your future freedoms. So if it's trining this person's Pluto, I will say this, their Pluto is in their 12th house. Pluto, I believe, at 8 degrees in the 12th. Again, you want me to do a video for us to see this? Again, this is an astrology lesson, okay? I understand this individual invokes very strong emotions from people. I get it. But we're here to learn. We are witnessing history, and we're going to see how astrology plays out and how the current events fulfill what the ancient teachers have taught us about astrology. All right, Taffy's here and she's ready to go. So I'm ending it here. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you in the next one. Remember, leave a comment below. Bye-bye.